Hi, I'm Jeff Murrow. I want to welcome you to True Texas History, where today, June the 20th, we are looking at the second Anahuac disturbance. Now, I know I've done the video on the first Anahuac disturbance, which occurred in 1832. The second one occurred in 1835. Now, the shorthand version of what happened is that one of the local merchants, a fellow by the name of Andrew Briscoe, started complaining about how the Mexican officials were collecting duties there at Anahuac, and that their duties were unfair. He essentially kind of created an incident where he ended up being arrested along with DeWitt Clinton Harris. And then one of the local residents by the name of William Barrett Travis was upset that these two had been arrested. He gathered together some volunteers. They went there. There was a standoff with the Mexican official. The Mexican official backed down and went ahead and surrendered his garrison to the Texans. The Texans went ahead and took the arms, sent the Mexican troops back. Now, that's the shorthand version now, but let me go ahead and put it in context. In 1835, part of what was going on is that Stephen F. Austin, who essentially was a spokesperson for the people of Texas, was still imprisoned in Mexico City. And the Mexican government was becoming much more hostile to the immigrants, so much so that they wanted a new duty to be placed upon goods that were coming into the country, because they needed something to pay for a lot of their buildup of their military. And they felt that some of the colonists and the activities going on there, they were causing trouble. They needed to pay for the trouble. Now, with this in mind, when Travis and his volunteers, first of all, he ended up getting something like 25 volunteers, and I believe there were like 45 Mexican troops there. So they did not outnumber the Mexicans, even though the Mexican commander went ahead and surrendered to them. Now, the funny thing is, later on, Travis went ahead and wrote a letter of apology for his actions. Now, that letter that he wrote was so that the Mexican officials did not take their anger out on Stephen F. Austin. Now, Briscoe, who was one of the ones that had been imprisoned there at Anahuac, made it a point of never apologizing for his actions. He felt as though that they were fully warranted, and that the Mexicans were being heavy-handed. Now, in the aftermath of what happened there at the second Anahuac disturbance, Santa Anna went ahead and had his brother-in-law, General Coss, to investigate. And Coss went ahead and sent a fellow by the name of the nickname of Mexico Thompson, in to investigate. Now, Thompson had a reputation for being overly aggressive in his actions and being pro-Mexican in his approach, hence the nickname Mexico Thompson. And he's a colorful character, not only during the days leading up to Texas independence, but also afterwards. He did play a role in the Texas Navy, which I've talked about on one of the other videos as well. So the second Anahuac disturbance definitely gained the attention of the Mexican government toward the colonists. And it is also one of those episodes where Travis comes out as a leader. Now keep in mind, next year in 1836, he became the commander there at the Alamo. But people don't just show up and become leader out of nowhere. That leadership develops, and he had showed a bold willingness to go ahead and address issues then. Now, another factor that makes it a curious incident, Briscoe provoked some of this because he felt as though the duties were unfair, and he was purposely loading up his boats in a way that would provoke the curiosity. Now, all he was doing was loading bricks into it, but he was making it look as if he was storing contraband on his boat so as to agitate the Mexican officials. So they essentially fell for his trap. He ended up getting jailed, and you have the whole Second Anahuac Disturbance, which eventually led to more solidification of the Texans and their call for freedom. And part of the call for freedom is not just for freedom of religion, freedom of trade, but it also involved taxes and not being made to pay unfair taxes. Now, keep in mind, many nations at that point did not have an income tax. Instead, it was duties. I mean, even the United States at that point did not have an income tax. All the money they raised for the operation of the nation was through imports and export duties. So, anyways, that is what happened with the Second Anahuac Disturbance. Now, Andrew Briscoe went on to distinguish himself in other activities. He fought at the Battle of Concepcion. He was one of those that did follow old Ben Milam into San Antonio. And even after the war, he ended up serving in some prominent positions. Now, DeWitt Clinton Harris, the other man who was locked up, he was originally from New York, and he was later involved in a lot of the railroad activities where the Brazos, where the railroad that went to Houston was developed. He was instrumental there, and I believe he ended up being a conductor on the railroad later on. But that is what happened with the Second Anahuac Disturbance, and so you have key people like William Barrett Travis starting to come into the limelight, and you have the Texans starting to unite and also wanting to protect their leader, Stephen F. Austin. So I welcome your comments, I welcome your thumbs up, welcome your questions. In fact, someone had asked the question, when are you going to do the Second Anahuac Disturbance? Well, here it is. Hope you enjoy it, for that's what happened this day in Texas history. And until next time, vaya con Dios, my friends. Goodbye.